All right, is Western civilization in decline? 100% it is. You can see this across just about every measure that you want to have a look at. So, I mean, first of all, let's look at economics. Most Western countries are running on debt, either private or government debt, and that's what's keeping their economies going. There are asset bubbles in different Western countries across the globe that are ready to pop. That's the macroeconomic picture. Then we'd go to microeconomics. You know, our parents' generation or the baby boomers' generation, they could live in a house on a single income. The wages that they earned went a lot further. If you adjust for inflation, everything's more expensive in terms of what it costs against the wages that you earn. So today you need a dual income to survive, and sometimes even a dual income isn't enough. So whereas our parents' generation, they survived on, a single income. In terms of health, yes, people are living longer. That's because, yes, there's been breakthroughs in medicine. However, they're not healthier. Obesity epidemic is rife. About 40% of people are living with a serious disease. Large numbers of people, a large proportion, I'm not sure what it was, I think it's close to 40%, are on mental health medication. You have a mental health epidemic. Suicide rates are up through the roof. So I think, people are living longer, but they're not healthier. They're just able to treat the diseases that they have more effectively. So military, Western militaries, they haven't won wars in ages, not pretty much since World War II. So Western civilization armies can't win wars anymore. We're actually fighting in proxy wars at the moment to try and maintain control. So that's another sign. Pretty much every measure you can see the decline. That the West is in decline. So you might even hear them say about crime. We live, it's low crime. Crime rates are up through the roof. I don't know where they got those figures. You can look up the murder rate in England all the way back to the 1200s. And, in 1600s England, the murder rate was around 10 in 10,000, which isn't crazy good. But, you compare that to some South American countries and places like that, and they've got murder rates up in the 30s and 40s. By the time it got to 1700s in England, the murder rate was down to 5. Well, in the USA at the moment, it's around 7 or 8. So we don't live in particularly peaceful times. In terms of warfare, the same thing. If you get the graphs for the last 1,000 years, you can see roughly 90 years, there's a major sort of conflict, and then it gets more peaceful, and then it flares up again. And that's sort of a bit of a cycle that plays out. So if you average the last since World War II, which was the biggest war in all of human history, and the conflicts that have happened since, you've only really got to look like the 10 years ago, and then you say, okay, it was a peaceful time roughly 10 years ago, but not really when you average that out over the 1,000 years. It's all fairly similar. So you can see the cycle playing out. So I think unless there isn't a conflict in the next few years, we aren't living, everything's looking like it always has. But I think the Western civilization definitely, it's not looking good. But is there hope? 100% there's hope. So I think people are looking for some great leader to emerge and to change the society, and that will change it all the way down. But that's not how it's going to work. There's an old saying, and the saying goes, strong men create good times create weak men create bad times, and then bad times create strong men, and that just goes around and round. So I think our parents' generation was the good times, and that has created the soft men, and now the soft men have created bad times, and it's getting worse. Now it's time for the strong men to emerge, otherwise our civilization will collapse. And that comes from the bottom up. You're not going to have some leader come and emerge and get elected, and then that change comes from the top. It's going to come from the bottom. It's going to be a bottom up thing. So that means the change comes from you. So you can ask, the question would be, where were you when Western civilization collapsed? And if the answer is, eating potato chips, playing Xbox, wanking to porn and smoking weed, yeah, you pretty much just sat by and watched Western civilization collapse, and you didn't do a damn thing about it. However, you can make a change, and I'm going to give you the tool to build that. It's like a foundation of a house, and when you build that from there, everything goes up, and you will just build yourself as an individual, and then all the individual men will be strong, and then that's the foundation for the society to go. And whatever the idiotic leadership are trying to do, leaders are reflective of the people. The people aren't reflective of the leaders. Okay? I hope that makes sense. So the tool is this. The tool is to basically obtain the values, and when I say values, this is the virtues that you have as a person, what you hold dear, what's important to you, and your priorities in life. And when you build, you find those, then you can build, and that's part of your identity, and it just gets built from there. I've done this in my own life. It works well. Other people I know have their values correct, and they thrive, and they really do well. This is a life hack. It really works. Everybody I know who's got their values sorted and has done this, go ahead and leap and bounds. So the way to and this is the tool, the way to get your values is to imagine yourself in a hunter-gatherer scenario. And the reason you do that is because it makes the pressures that the selective pressures more obvious. Okay, I'll put it in perspective. You could sit and play Xbox for the rest of your life and you're not going to die. But if you're a hunter-gatherer and you played Xbox, you would pretty much die fairly quickly. So that the pressures are amplified. So the way these pressures work is like life and death. And death puts pressure on life to shape it and improve life. I know that sounds a bit crazy, and it will make sense. Charles Darwin spoke about it, and it's survival of the fittest. So you can imagine yourself as a hunter-gatherer, and the first pressure is the elements. Okay, this is the heat, the cold, drought, is it raining, floods, all of these sorts of things. Do you live in a desert, tundra, rainforest. Those pressures, right? Then you imagine yourself as a hunter-gatherer, and then you imagine what strengths that you have that would allow you to survive. So I'll give you an example. Humans survive with intelligence and knowledge. If you were a hunter-gatherer and you didn't know how to start a fire, or you didn't know how to read the land and find where water was, and you didn't know what foods were poisonous and things like that, you would die. So intelligence and a hunger for knowledge might be a virtue of yours. You might be somebody who's naturally gifted in that manner, and that would be a virtue because that's a strength of yours. So you would go, okay, that's a value of mine. So that would be put on the list. So you want to obtain 6 core values. Why 6? 6 is an easy number to remember, and easily you'll see why. So that could be an example. Another example might be humans are a social animal. So another core value or priority of yours could be family or friends. So putting that as a top priority and building people around you and those networks could be a value or priority of yours. So you could put that up there. And just look inside yourself. It could be fortitude. It could be strength, mental strength, physical strength. There's a whole range of things. And each person will have different values. But you're going to start to see that these values are real values. And if that becomes your value, then you need to bring that to the real world. So write that up on a piece of paper or something and put it on your wall, and you review that every night, and you swear an oath to yourself that I will live my life and use the values that have been granted to me to their full potential. And you live that. So let's say intelligence and hunger for learning was an actual value of yours. Then when you go to school, you better live that, because you've been given an opportunity to learn and obtain knowledge, and that's life or death. So that's your core value. That's what you live. So you don't go, oh yeah, I'll write down that I've intelligent and hunger for learning as one of my core values, and then you go to school and you just don't pay attention and make paper airplanes. Whatever values you put, you've got to live. This is your foundation of your identity. So the next pressure is sexual selection. So Charles Darwin famously had the example of the peacock, and the peacock's tail feathers, the big fan. Those feathers, they don't help the peacock fly, they don't help the peacock for warmth. They've got no actual purpose other than to display to the opposite sex that this is good genetic stock and there's no diseases or parasites. So then the opposite sex goes, this is a good partner, I'm going to mate with this bird. So you need to have a look and see, okay, what values or priorities do I have that would make me attractive to the opposite sex? This might be things like obtaining resources and being able to build coalitions, and sense of humor and intelligence and physical strength. The list goes on. Charismatic. There's a whole range of things. So you need to look in yourself and see, okay, what do I possess? And then get your value, write it down, take it there. So that will be your next one. The next pressure is the predator-prey pressure. I saw this in the desert. there's always a one-upmanship between the kangaroo and the eagle. The eagle's always trying to improve and to get the kangaroo, and the kangaroo is always trying to improve to evade the eagle. So the prey, if they're too good, they will starve the predator to death. If the predator's too good, they will just constantly, kill too many prey. So there's always trying to be this one-upmanship. Now with human beings, we're an apex predator, and apex predators like lions, the male lions will kill other male lions to control the resources in the area. And in humans, that's called war. So you have to look, what values do I possess that would allow me to win in warfare? Once again, relay this back to the hunter-gatherer scenario where everything's more simplified. Don't think about the modern warfare where you're like, okay, my value might be a drone operator. No, just bring it back down. So it would be like things like being able to form a coalition, loyalty, honor to the group, other things like fortitude, strength, speed, dexterity, a whole range of things like that. Cunning, intelligence, being able to outsmart your opponents, a whole range of things. So you need to look in yourself, and no two people are going to be the same. No two people are going to have exactly the same values or priorities or virtues. So take one. That's number 3. So now I'm going to move on to number 4. Number 4 is a pressure called the parasite host pressure. This is basically disease. So I could see this in the desert as well. Disease is a strong factor, or the parasite. So the parasite again is always trying to one up, and the host is always trying to one up. So the parasite is trying to get a free ride. The host is trying to rid itself of parasites. And basically, the fit, healthy animals, they would survive. But the animals that were stressed and weak and of this nature, they were the ones that would succumb to the diseases quite often. It's like an advantage. So stressed animals of any species, their immune system gets weakened. So this is where things like enjoyment, joy, laughter, sense of humor, dancing, enjoying life. This is to bring your stress levels down. So it's not all your virtues or values or priorities aren't all about, okay, I've got to be strong, I've got to be virile, I've got to be this, I've got to be that. Some of them are going to be to reduce your stress, to protect you from this parasite host pressure. And that this has been there. And if you look at tribal societies, hunter-gatherer societies, yeah, they had corroborees and, music and laughter and together time around the fireplace. It wasn't all, that's what boosted life, and that plays an important function in the health of everybody. So pick out a value surrounding that, and that's another one. The next pressure is the competition between men, or competition between women. I'll keep it the competition between men. So this isn't warfare, because within your group there's going to be competition between even your own group to try and elevate yourself to get the best females. So it's not so much you're at war with them and you're not going to try and kill them like it is a war. This isn't an out group versus the in group. This is the in group versus each other. It's competition between men within the group. And this is where things like, okay, adventure is probably a really male sort of trait, and I'll tell you why that is. So if you put yourself in the hunter-gatherer thing, and let's say there was 20 women in the tribe, 20 men in the tribe. If the food was scarce in the area and things weren't looking too good, if all the women went out on an adventure over the hill to look for food and it didn't go so well and only one woman came back, well, guess what? Next year there can only be one baby to replenish the tribe. Whereas if food is scarce and the 20 men go over the hill and things don't go so well and one man comes back, well, you can still have 20 babies next year. So in that sense, women are a little bit more valuable from a reproductive standpoint, and men are a little bit more expendable. That's why, adventure and things like that, if you were the man that went over the hill and you found the resources and then you came back and, you had a nice deer over your shoulder, you're a go-getter. And the same applies to modern day. If you could be a go-getter. And that's just one. The whole range of other values there, being bold, of being decisive, of being strong, of being able to form a coalition around you and be a leader and things like that. So once again, you put yourself in that scenario and you can see what value that you can draw from that. And you put that down. And the last pressure is what I like to call chance. The chance pressure is one, it's it's not nice to hear, but when your numbers up, your numbers up. And as I said, life and death are in a balance. Everybody dies. In fact, death is a prerequisite of life. If you don't die, you're not really alive. So death can come at any time, and that's the chance of death. And that increases the value of life. So if a baby was to die on the first day of its life, you would say, what's the purpose of that? It's an innocent baby. Why would that be the case? What is the point of that? And the answer is, it increases the value of life for everybody else who's left alive. So death plays that and will take anybody's life, but it increases the value of everybody who's left behind. So all those people surrounding that baby now have a responsibility to live their life to the fullest, to honor that baby and to take that baby's soul forward. And that is the chance pressure. So the values that you can take from the chance pressure is one of, seize the moment, take action, motivation, drive, ambition, all of these things. Don't wait till tomorrow. So chance pressure, it acts as a motivator and it adds value to life. So the closer death becomes, the more valuable life will feel. So that's the tool. And as I said, you put all of those 6 values or priorities on a piece of paper or something, write it up really nicely. You could put it on a canvas or something like that, and write it up really nicely and put it up on your wall. And basically every day, it's sort of like praying. You'll go to that and you'll reaffirm that I'm going to use those those values or virtues or priorities to their full potential. So every day you should do that, and you should use at least some of them to their full potential. And if you do that, your life will improve, and this is the basic foundation. And if you continue to build on that, these are true values, these are true virtues, these are what are life and death. So this is real. Too many people these days that's what's an issue. Their values and priorities are in disarray. They're prioritizing just poorly. So it's just, they'll have celebrity and things like that up on a pedestal. Well, these aren't life and death values. Life and death values come from the tool I just told you. And if you live by that, you will elevate yourself. You elevate yourself, you elevate the people around you, society and the civilization will increase and become better. So good luck with it. I hope it works for you. And we can turn this civilization around. We can do it. Thanks and goodbye.